Welcome back to the Crossroad podcast, where this week I am joined by somebody whose crossroads have been very colourful and they continue to be very colourful. We have presenter, business owner, and the founder of Chromie, which is all about colour therapy, Kate Harrison. Now, Kate is somebody who is a beacon of light as soon as she walks in the room. She doesn't even need to wear colour. But her life hasn't always been colourful, and I think you're going to resonate with this story that she's about to tell you. From postnatal depression to her husband's own mental health, this is a story that is going to really stay with you. I'm absolutely sure of it. So grab yourself a cup of tea, like and subscribe, because it means that we can keep creating. And I hope you enjoy this episode with myself and Kate Harrison. Kate Harrison.
Rachel
Our queen
Aitken.
of colour. She's here in orange. Oh my goodness, thank you so much.
It's like I didn't know that all your accents were orange, by the way, but I've just turned up in it. I feel like I'm meant to be here, yeah?
And you had me on your podcast.
I did.
In the middle of this year, and you said to me that my soul shade's orange, and here we are, surrounded by a lot of orange, and you've just walked in my favourite colour.
Did you pick it?
No, but look at it. There's loads.
Cool.
On
There's
the
loads.
record machine. The candle.
It is. Your soul shade is orange.
And I do love it. Orange and yellow, and
Creative.
actually sat next to a yellow cushion now. I see that now.
Well, yellow is like the next one up from orange on the visible spectrum. Anyway, we're getting way ahead of ourselves,
No,
darling.
I know. Kate, it's such a privilege to have you here. You really are my goals. You're a really incredibly busy woman. You've got 3 kids.
Correct.
And something every day is always going on in your world.
Yeah, I know. I do need to slow down a little bit. I do
No.
like being busy, though.
I think slowing down is just not in our nature.
It's not.
But we're here to talk about the crossroads, and I know that you are the queen of colour now, but your crossroads weren't always colourful, and that's what I really want to get into. I want to understand how we've gone from a road looking quite dark to a multitude of roads that you literally unpick every single day in colour. Can you walk me through that transition and where it's taken
It
you?
is a squiggly road. It's like one of those roads, like, up in Yorkshire that goes up and down and round the
Yeah.
corners and all the rest of it. But yeah, and I think there've been many crossroads. There really have. I'm writing a talk at the moment. I'm writing a book, and it's kind of forcing me to go back to it. And I start even in childhood, where my dad was an artist and he was an art teacher, and my life was really colourful.
Mm-hmm.
And then the way I am now obviously hasn't always been, because I've lost the colour in my life, and there were many crossroads. I think the first one was teenage years, which I think is one for so many people. I've got teenagers right now, so I am living in that right now. My mum and dad got divorced. I got really insecure. We do, don't we? I think we're evolving into who we are, and I think every time there's been that evolution in my life, I've lost my colour for a bit of time, because you become so unsure of who you are, and so you want to cloak yourself. And that means for me, I can trace it back, and I'm doing this thing where I'm looking at photos through my life, and you can tell my inner state by my outer state.
Really?
So I will go into head to toe black lots of the time. Teenage years, I was wearing black. I was eating beige food. I was in my bedroom with the windows shut, curtains closed. I was cocooning myself, and it wasn't until probably 5 or 6 years ago that I could join those dots of colour and identity and me, and now I'm living this kind of full colour life. So there's been many crossroads, but I'd say the first was teenage years, because we don't really know who we are, do we?
No, it's really tough, and I would say it's really tough as a woman, but it's actually tough both genders. It is tough in different ways, and you'll know that in a household right now of
Oh
2
my
boys
gosh.
and a girl.
Yeah, so my daughter's just started high school and won't wear any colour because it makes you visible, and when
Yeah.
you don't know how visible you want to be or why you want to be visible or what you want to say, then that's really tricky. And it's not all about the clothes. I mean, it started with the clothes. I was a stylist for 20 odd years before I started doing kind of colour as more of a therapeutic well-being slant. But yeah, so that colour drained, and that was a real crossroads where I go, do I want to, what do I want to do? Do I want to go to university? I failed all my A-levels because my boyfriend at the time dumped me just before. That boyfriend is now my husband.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
So he's so responsible. But, you know, I'm a very big believer in that, you know, the universe, you've just got to trust it and go with the flow. And I ended up taking a year out after my A levels. And really that was another one where I had to make that decision. What am I going to do? Because I actually went to my personnel manager at the time and said, look, I'm going to have to work on this food till for the rest of my life because I've failed my A levels. And she's like, what are you talking about? I love that. You know, I think all the way through my life, I've had older women who've gone, you're all right, love. And that's what I love doing now. I love being that kind of mentor that goes, oh, it's cool. I've been there. It's all right. We'll find you pink again. Or, you know, we can do it. Let's just go for the next step. And I think that's what I love the most about what I do now. But at every single, those little life punctuations, I've sought out someone who can give me that. And they help you colour it in. And I'm just hopeful that I can be that to other people now as well.
Well, you certainly are that person to me. I only met you like this year, and, you know, much like the team at Prism, we were saying, you know, we feel like we know each other a really long time, and it's only just been this year. I've been on your podcast. You've opened the door to me in so many different levels, so generous and kind, and now you are here on our podcast, so you're certainly paying it forward. And like I was saying to you before we started recording, not everyone does that, Kate, you know? Not everyone has those women or men to help them and guide them. So it's really actually quite unique.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I think you always, in the same way that I use colour as a wellbeing tool, I just think that everyone knows it and they don't. And it's then, that was the thing was when I realised that not everyone does that and not everyone knows that, then I thought, wow, this is so powerful and I want everyone to know that. And when I did a retail marketing degree, which was great, you know, as my dad said, it was a degree in shopping. But my year out was spent at an aluminium company, which people go, really? It's not very glamorous. I'm like, no, but I loved it because it was all people. And I feel like people can bring that colour to your life and people can help guide you in different directions. And I ended up working there after uni for a few years as well. But I had this real craving to want to work for myself, even from a really young age, that I wanted to kind of furrow my own path and help people, not just within a job role. Like I was helping scrap dealers to get more metal, essentially. I was helping them market through aluminium drink can recycling. I mean, it was very glamorous, but and it was based actually here in Warrington, funnily enough. But then what that gave me was this ability to be able to talk to anyone. And I always say this to my kids, just say yeah to that thing and see where it takes you, because there's going to be all these different things in your life and you'll go, flipping heck, that's just made so much sense. You know, 2 years ago when I did that, I can use that now for that, and I'm using those skills now. So I think that I loved that time. I really did, in my wellies and my high-vis jackets. And I went back into them when I worked in construction later on in my career. But yeah, working for myself, and that's a scary one. And I know that's something that you're dealing with now. It's like, do we go for the dream? Do we stay? We all have pressures. But I guess in my early 20s, I didn't have the pressures of children. We had a flat that was tiny. I was never there. So I just went for it and moved down to London to become a stylist.
Wow. So take me back to that little gap for a minute where you feel like you've lost your colour, you failed your A-levels. And at the time when you're doing your GCSEs, your A-levels, whatever examinations in your sixth form that you're doing, it's the be-all and end-all, isn't it? The pressure of it is so huge. But you did do a degree. So how did we jump from failing all of our A-levels to the degree and going to London to become a stylist?
Yeah. I learned really early on to do more of what you're good at and actually what you really enjoy. So I was no good at sitting in an exam, writing things down. That wasn't how that just wasn't how I operated. But I was a master on the food tills at Marks and Spencer's, and I flipping loved it. I'd be like, what are you having for your dinner? Oh, this looks fantastic. And it was brilliant. And so actually it was my personnel manager who said, when I went for the extra hours, because clearly that's what I thought I'd be doing all the rest of my life, she said, why don't you go for this? There's a management training opportunity. They take 6 people every year who haven't got a degree, and you actually go with the people that do have a degree, and you get 6 months across every aspect of the business. And I applied and I got in because no one asked me to sit an exam. They just asked me to talk about
yourself.
why I wanted to be in it. And I wanted to be in that retail environment because it was colourful, because there were loads of people, and that was a strength of mine, definitely. And that's how then I think within 2 weeks, I'd got knocked back from Manchester Met. And then within 2 weeks, I'd got an unconditional offer for the next year. And I spent that year working for Marks and Spencer's up and down the country, every single aspect of their business, from finance, which I hated, numbers are not my thing, to marketing, which I was like, oh, I like this. I like the clothes. I like the people. I like the marketing side. That's good. Went and did my degree and came out of that and thought I can use this in another way. And I think that's what this is all about, isn't it? I think it's those transferable skills and those seeing the opportunity. I'm a big one for seeing the opportunity in it, and that's what I definitely saw.
Does that come from you, or does that come from external mentors, people in your life guiding you through what can seem to me like this puzzle of crossroads already?
I think it comes from me, because my mum and dad were both teachers. So they were very academic and they followed the script, essentially. It was, this sounds awful, but they never left school. They knew that process. They knew the curriculum. They knew how to do it, and they worked within that. And all their friends were teachers, and there was no one kind of in business there at all. And when I met my husband, his dad was in business, and I was like, oh. And my parents were like, oh, this must be dodgy. Anyone who had money or anyone who ran their own business was just dodgy.
Right.
And I kind of thought, yeah, that sounds great.
In for a penny, in for a pound.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I just thought, I just fancy a bit of that. It just seems much. I was one of those people that even at school, I'd sit and look out the window and go, what's going on out there? I want to be out there. I don't want to be in here. And every time I had a job as well, I'd be doing the same thing. I'd be like, even when I was enjoying myself, sat on my tail, I'd be like, yeah, but what are they doing out there? What happens when they leave here? And I never wanted to be in the room getting paid to just do the thing. I wanted to be out there creating the things.
Yeah.
And that was a real draw for me straight away.
So interesting, exciting. And I really resonate with everything you're saying, actually. I sit in board meetings all the time and I just look at the blue sky, usually in London where I am for the meetings, thinking, yeah, there's more to this. Yeah. So I really resonate with that. And what a special thing that actually happened to you quite early on in life.
Yeah, it did. It did. And I just kind of went with the flow then. I went down to London, stayed with my auntie, who was incredible, actually. She was a very big, colourful lady. She always wore bright red lipstick. She was always really flamboyant. She lived at the end of Portobello Road in London, in Trellick Tower. And my auntie Eileen was just like, yeah, she was the one. Her husband had died, so she lived on her own, and she was powerhouse. I just loved her to bits. And she'd walk down Portobello Road and she'd know everyone and so many different nationalities. And she'd go in the Portuguese bakery and get her little kind of vanilla custard tarts, and she'd have a little espresso. And she was just ace. And just being around that, I thought, oh yeah, this is exciting. But I had to go to London to get it because they obviously didn't think if you lived in Manchester you were fashionable enough.
Well, that's changing now, isn't it? Very
much. It is. So. And then I learned that actually it wasn't clothes and fashion that I liked. It was actually people. That's what I loved. I loved making people feel better and feel good. And if that was in a cardi, brilliant. But sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes it was just in other ways, just in creating space for them or listening to them and I found that really special. So, yeah, I became a stylist. I set up my own styling company. I got a business partner as well. And we set up the UK's first ever high street style advice studio, which was way above its time, way ahead of its time, way too much ahead of its time, to be fair, because everyone was like, what? What is it? I remember we actually won a Grazia award for it.
No way.
And we, for the Northwest, so it was like the Business Awards, Women in Business Awards. And we had to go down to London for the judging. And the main judge was Mary Portas. And I was so scared because she is a powerhouse in real life as well. Her energy is like a real powerhouse. But even she was a bit like, I don't really get it because it was just like, it was way ahead of its time. There was no social media at the time or anything like that, but it was great. And we had a great time there. We had a couple of TV shows called Fashion Face Off, and I absolutely lived the dream. I loved it. And then I got married and very quickly got pregnant. And here is another crossroads.
Well, this is it. Did you feel like the colour was really like vibrant and back in your life when you were doing these incredible TV shows? You're in Grazia, you know, absolutely amazing time with your Andy, who seems like, you know, had a real big and lasting impression.
She really did.
What happened at this next crossroad when you fell pregnant with your first baby?
Yeah. So I thought that you just had a baby and it just popped out and that was it. So he was due in the October, and by the December I'd already got work booked in for like presenting fashion shows at the Trafford Centre and all this stuff. I'm like, it'll be absolutely fine. I'm just going to bring him with me. It'll be all right. I'll dress him as an elf.
You're a woman after my own heart.
No problem whatsoever. And it didn't. It wasn't. I was working. I remember I was doing a massive corporate, we did quite a lot of corporate image work, so helping people to create their own personal brand within the corporate world in those days. Still do a bit of it now. I didn't particularly enjoy it, but it paid really well. And I remember being stood on this stage for a very well-known bank, and there must have been about 600 people in the audience, and I'm delivering this speech. I just thought, God, I feel really dizzy, you know, but I've still got another 2 weeks of work left. Got home, felt worse and worse, and ended up I had preeclampsia.
Oh, my goodness.
So I was in hospital for 2 weeks before he was born. I also, if you didn't move quick enough and if you were beige, I ate you during my pregnancy, basically. I put on 6 stone. So I looked in the mirror and didn't know who I was anymore. I really didn't. And then I had a really long labour, emergency section, all the rest of it, and felt like I'd been hit by a bus. And really, those were dark. Like, there was no colour those days. Those days were so dark. I got really bad postnatal depression. It was just such a shock, I think, that I hadn't really given it much thought, in the same way as the year before I'd got married and hadn't given my wedding much thought. Like, my mum had kind of sorted everything out for the wedding. I hadn't given it. And weirdly, I look back at my wedding photos, there's no colour. It's all white and green.
Really?
And I just hadn't given this baby much thought. I was like, it's going to arrive, it'll just slot into my life, and clearly that didn't happen. He didn't sleep for about a year. He had a really traumatic birth. He was £9.1, and it was like giving birth to a man, even though I had an emergency section in the end.
He's a big lad now as well, isn't he?
He is. I mean, my boys are now like way over 6 foot.
I see pictures of you with them and I'm like, that must be a wild thing you've nurtured these babies and they're much, much taller than you.
It's so weird. You can't just give them a little cuddle anymore. But yeah, that was hard, and the colour drained massively, and it took me a year to kind of get back to feeling like myself again. And that process again was even just like putting some makeup on. It probably took me 4 months or something. And I think Charlie was about 6 months, and I joined Slimming World. And people go, oh gosh, did you? I was like, yeah. And you know what? It saved me. The community. That's what I wanted. There were all these older ladies who'd push my baby around, and every week I'd win Slimmer of the Week because I had so much weight to lose, and I was younger than everyone else. So it was like,
and
winner.
You're running after a baby.
I'd go home with like all this sugar-free jelly. Everyone would bring something in to put in the hamper, sugar-free jelly and fruit and veg, and I'd be like, and that slowly brought my colour back into my life. And then I got pregnant again. I had 2 under 2. Oh, Kate. But actually, after I had Will, it wasn't so bad. And I'd say that then I had Poppy 3 years later, I didn't suffer with postnatal depression after those. And actually, that was probably some of my happiest times. And when I look back at why was that so happy, because I had one job, and it was an all-fulfilling job to bring these kids up, to be present with them. And I was lucky that I was able to do that. I got to stay at home with my kids, which I am so grateful for. And also I had a lovely routine. I'd go to this baby group on a Monday, and then here on a Tuesday, and here on a Wednesday. And it meant that we all had chances to meet up. I met up with all these other women. So we had this fantastic community, and we were there, and we knew that we'd be there at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday. I'd be here, 4 o'clock on a Thursday, I'd be here. We had to have a break in the day of an hour or two because these kids needed to nap. And it forced you into almost what people would now call like a really healthy well-being routine, that you have a set bedtime, and you have a set time to get up, and that you have community, and that you have time, and everything was kind of portioned. And I think that was great. And that's actually probably exactly what I crave now. And that's what I'm trying to create within my own communities, that actually we can do this together and you don't need an excuse to meet up. You know, back then we had this brilliant excuse that this was our children. But really, we just sat there drinking tea and it was brilliant. But for the women that don't have that, that must be really hard. And my sister had a baby during COVID and not having that community would imagine would be really, really tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had a few years then of living in kind of full colour. I say kind of, slightly muted, because again, the colour was on my kids. I gave all my colour to my kids and I felt great because I knew that, you know, you look at their wardrobes, it was
Yes. Oh my gosh.
unbelievable. You look at their plates, I'm like, my God, my world famous nibble plate, you know, it was amazing. Everything was cut up, it was brightly coloured, it was incredible. And I put all my energy onto them, and because you see them growing and that's an amazing feeling. But then they grow up and go to school and I was like, oh, now I feel like I need something for me. But I was very much in that kind of support at role. So actually I ended up supporting my husband in his business, which again, I enjoyed because I got to run a team. I set up my own social enterprise. So it was a not-for-profit organisation to help communities, which was ticking all my boxes. I loved all that. But there was still just something deep down that wasn't me with the brightness cranked up. And then we just had one big catastrophic blackout, really. About nearly 4 years ago, my husband had a total nervous breakdown and lost his business overnight. I was on my own in the house with 3 kids, lost all income, lost everything. I was kind of quite badly bullied. I can't say too much, but bullied by guys who were in that business who, you know, you kind of work out who you can trust, don't you, in those times? And apparently not very many people we could trust. And I think that's kind of probably the biggest crossroads I've ever felt, because it was just me. There was no one else there. I was on my own in this house. And I thought, it's now or never. You've either got to pick this up and run with it and make a brighter future for you and your kids and your family, or you slip into the darkness.
So where was your husband at this point?
So he actually had to go into a residential care home for 2 months. So that was a long time. It was a long time to be on your own when you don't know what's happening and there's no communication with him because he was in such a bad way. So there was I didn't know what was around the corner. People were asking me and I'm like, I don't know. He's in this facility and we're trying to get him well again. And so there were no guarantees. I didn't have any answers for anyone. And that was really scary. So I kind of thought, look, if I can't control any of this situation, I can't control his care, I'd just get a weekly update from the clinic. All I can control is what I do now. And sometimes I do think that when it's so dark, you've just got to look for the light. You've just got to look for the colour. And that's where I remembered who I was, really, I think. And I think sometimes you've got to go through that. You almost go through the cocoon and in the chrysalis, and then that's how you come out. And I was probably, I only let it kind of consume me for maybe 2 weeks because I had 3 kids watching and they weren't little kids. They were big kids.
How old were they?
2 were in high school, 1 was still in primary school. So it was only 3 years ago, 4 years next year. So they knew that what had happened, didn't know all of it, but they knew most of it. And they were like looking to me now. So what happens next? And I'm like, well, I write the scripts and I colour it in. So that's what I did.
Kate, what a strong woman you are. How did you feel in that moment?
Oddly free, because like when you lose a business, and his business was massive, and there's a lot of expectation that comes with that, you know, a lot of people, and it cleared the decks of people, let's put it that way, because, you know, for a while you're like, can I trust that person? Can I not? Oh, no, I can't. So that's it. That's a big red line under that. It's a full stop. It's an end. And I was terrified. I remember huge anxiety for about I still, certainly things will trigger that anxiety, but I kind of found I found my red, which I now know is what I found was my red, because I'd always been really nurturing and caring and looking after everybody else. And I'd done that. And then all of a sudden, I was on my own. And I'm like, you know what? I've got to give that energy to myself. And that's what I learned to do. I learned to reconnect with myself in a way that I'd never done before, because if I started with me, then I could take the kids on that journey with me. And then eventually I could take my husband on that journey with me as well. And that's what I did. And I remember I remember thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to pay for X, Y, and Z? What's going to happen? And I thought, do you know what, Kate? During COVID, during lockdown, he had a construction business. So it was difficult to build houses socially distanced. So I took time out from that business to focus on the kids, homeschooling 3 kids. So that was no picnic. But I was dead jealous that they all learnt something new every day. They had these little worksheets teaching them new things. And I'm like, this is so ace. Why am I not doing more of this? This would be so cool. So I found a course online because I'd always been really taken by how people felt colour, didn't just see it. So I could put someone on that TV show in a bright red dress and they would look incredible. You know, she'd look amazing, and 3 weeks later she'd be back in a black tracksuit. And I'd be like, why is that? And she'd say it felt too much. She didn't say it looked too much. She knew it looked amazing, but it felt too much. So I was like, she's feeling it. She's feeling colour. And in lockdown, I guess it gave me that ability to go, do you know what? I'm going to have a little go down this rabbit hole and see what happens. Anyway, I found this qualification, advanced diploma in chromotherapy. Well, I didn't even know what chromotherapy was. But after studying that for 2 years, what it did was connect the dots between what this woman was seeing and what she was feeling, and how every colour has a frequency and a vibration, and you can use it for energy healing. And in the darkest time, that's when I thought, I've got to look for the colour. And it was a bit of a light bulb moment. So I did. And I created Chromie. And I remember the first network I went to, it was in Knutsford, and I'd just seen it online. I'd seen like an Instagram, and it was all women, and it was a brunch. And I thought, well, I've not been for a brunch for years, and this looks great. So I thought I'll go. And I chose, and I used my chromotherapy. So I wore a pink dress,
Okay.
and I put a bright yellow jacket on with it.
And what does that mean in terms of colour?
So my pink was all about feminine energy and reclaiming my feminine energy. And the yellow was all about clarity of thought and independence. So I was like, I'm after it. I'm having this. And I rocked up, and everyone wanted to talk to me. But I hadn't said anything, and people were like, oh my gosh, you know, who are you? Who are you? And they got it, and they felt it, and they felt the vibrations. They didn't know they did, because colour works on the subconscious. You don't consciously think, oh, that's yellow, she's independent. But subconsciously, it gives those vibrations. And I thought, yeah, I'm onto something here.
Did you feel the colour coming back internally?
Straight away.
Did you?
Straight away. Yeah, I did. And then I thought, I can take this further. So I came up with coaching programs around the 7 spectrum colours, and started talking about it on Instagram. And yeah, that's where it all started. And I feel now I'm living life in full colour, and I'm not sure I've ever lived it in this full spectrum colour before, because I'm letting it kind of guide me, and I'm using it, and I'm starting from me. And that's where I came up with this concept of soul shades. You said at the beginning, my soul shade is orange. Yes, it is. Yours is orange. Mine's green. And it really, basically what that is it gives your energy a colour. So your natural energy, so your natural fire and creativity and need to kind of lean into that gut feeling, that's your orange. And for me, my green is that natural, nurturing, empathetic, caring nature. Now, these are great things to be, but they can have flip sides as well. So with you, it's easy to burn out. When you burn so bright, it's really easy to burn out. And for me, I have a tendency to over give over nurture, and not have any boundaries. So we then learn about our own energy and what energies we need to bring in to just make us a little bit more balanced.
Yeah.
And that's what this is about. It's about living your life in full colour so you are feeling great, looking great, and being able to achieve the stuff you want to achieve, whatever that is.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Kate. When your husband's come back home and you've leaned into this red energy, which you haven't really kind of gone into before, are you still that red energy of the house now? How's the balance of colour in your home?
That was really hard to start off with because there wasn't a shift, a total shift in energy and a shift in power, really. You know, for a long time, we've been quite traditional in that he led the business and I was the support act. And we've been together since we were 17.
Yeah.
So it's been like that for a long time. Apart from before we had kids where it was all a little bit more equal. So interestingly enough, so his energy has always been quite red and his soul shade is red. When he came home, I'd actually painted the house green inside. So I had created, wanted to do was create a nurturing, calming environment for him. Because I knew that would be the opposite of how I was feeling. He'd be feeling anxious, he'd be feeling angry, all these different emotions, and none of them were balanced. So I painted the walls green in the kitchen and main living area. I took blue upstairs, blue and green into the bedrooms, put some more plants around. So really leaning into that colour therapy side of it, and sat with that green for a long time. And remember that red is not a comfortable energy for me to be either. It's the opposite of my green. So I didn't want to stay in that energy forever. I wanted to balance it out. And that's, I think, why we work so well. And that's why a lot of people, opposites attract, right? You're magnetic because what you give and what they give are totally different things. And you kind of need that. I use this within corporates as well for like leadership training, because it's no good if you've just got a load of reds in your team. You'll be fighting. You need every one of your 7 spectrum colours in there to bring it all together, because everyone brings something different to the table. So my most comfortable energy is to be that nurturer and that green, and it's slowly being more introduced as the years go on that I can take the foot off the red and go into the green. But I've developed a business that is based around that green, that actually this is what I do now. I nurture people. I help bring people back to life and give them all their colours back. So I'm leaning into my strengths, and I think that's what it is that if I was in a very fast-paced sales role, it's quite red energy. That's not me, and that's okay. That's somebody else, and that's not my business. And I think when I've worked with people in the past on my business, different coaches and stuff, if their energy's been very different to mine, that's great because that's what they give. But I'm always very conscious not to let that take over, because I'm very aware of what my energy is and how I want my brand to feel. And it has to be that nurturing. So the green's there. The green will always be there. But it's just the ability to be able to bring in the reds or the oranges or the purples whenever you need them. And having that awareness, you can just call on whatever you want. It's like, take what you need. I tell people to organise your wardrobe in the spectrum so you can go, God, how do I want to feel today? Not necessarily I've woken up absolutely shattered, I'm just going for grey. It's more, what do I need today? Am I having a difficult discussion? Do I need help in my, with communication? Do I need creativity? Do I need energy? Do I need calm? You can find all these things through colour.
It's absolutely amazing, isn't it? For somebody who overnight has lost their business or they're in real financial peril, tell me about that gap between you having that very dark time to then thinking, okay, I need to go out and hustle now and bring money in. How did you do that?
Gosh, so many ways. I sold everything I had. To be perfectly honest, I sold the cars off my drive. I ended up driving my dad's car, which strangely enough is red. How weird is that? Yeah, so there was a lot of that. There was a lot of, right, we're starting from ground zero. Where are we going here? So there's a lot of stripping back goes on and things like that, really stripping back. Obviously, you lose any of the helpful things that you may have had before, like a cleaner. And so it's about trying to clear the decks, get as much income in as you can, whilst also minimising your living costs. And there was a lot of that. But one thing I was really specific about was, I don't want my kids suffering through this. And my daughter had a horse, which, I mean, that's not a cheap thing to have. So my baseline was always, I need to be able to afford. I don't need new clothes. I need the kids to be able to do what they need to do at school, and for her to be able to carry on with this, because it given us so much. The boys both had their sports. I wanted them to be able to carry on with all that. And then I just thought, how can I monetize what I'm really good at? And that's where Chromie came in, and that's where me developing online ways to help people without me necessarily having to be there all the time. Being able to help as many people as possible, and also creating a community of people. So I've got a free Facebook group, and there's about 800 people in there now, which is great. And all these women, they support each other, and that's what I wanted. And I think when you support each other, that's when the magic happens, and that's when you can start colouring yourself in again. Because I think without that support, then I don't think I would have been anywhere. Even if those people don't know they've supported you, they could just be commenting on your Instagram post, or they could just be putting a heart or whatever. Yeah, I think that that's really important, not to keep that invisibility cloak on forever, because there are pictures of me at that time. I'm full on beige. I will absolutely not be wearing makeup. My hair won't have been washed for 2 weeks, and I'm in the thick of it. And I had to sit with it enough to feel it. But that's where my idea for a bracelet came in, because I was looking for something, just a little daily reminder to look for the colour, because even storms get tired. I heard that, I think it was Charlie Mackesy said that, even storms get tired. So, and there's so many other things that you can talk about. The rainbow comes after the storm, and out of the darkness comes the light, and all that sort of stuff. But some days you just need something to remind you of that. So I was looking for just something that I could wear, like a bracelet or something. I couldn't find anything on the market. So I ended up making my own. I got a little bead kit, and I started making my own with a full spectrum of colour on it. And at the same time, I recorded myself a full spectrum meditation. Now, meditation wasn't something that necessarily I'd done loads of, but I knew how to use colour in it as part of my training. So I created one with all the 7 spectrum colours to build energy. And I started listening to that every morning, 10 minutes. Just set my alarm 10 minutes earlier, just lay in bed, listen to it. And I wore my little bracelet that I made. And that little daily ritual literally brought me forward every day, just a step every day. And so then I developed it into a product. I know you can buy it on my website. It's a rainbow energy bracelet. And it is. And that's what that's for. It's a brilliant gift for as well for anyone who's going through a hard time, or it's just a daily reminder, a little daily ritual. And the colour meditation just brings you back to yourself again, ready to tackle the day, whatever's in store.
Do you feel like having your own, even like 5-10 minutes, helped you pull on the mum, jacket and raise these 3 kids during this storm? Do you think that really helped you?
100%. I was getting up the earliest I've ever got up. I think after the first week, I pretty much just stayed in bed every day, because it was literally get the kids to school and then just wallow a little bit, and there was a lot of wallowing going on. But I soon realised that wasn't going to get me anywhere. And so I carved out, I have a little morning routine that I do, half an hour, and it involves a bit of gratitude. I'm a big believer in manifestation, because I have manifested my life. Even beforehand, we did it with our house. We built our dream house, which fast became a real nightmare. But I'm now wanting to rebuild that dream again, with a different set of rules, with us at the heart of it rather than anybody else. So I think that's been a big learning, is that you've got to do what's right for you, and put yourself first. And I think as a mum, that's so difficult to do, because we don't do it. We put everybody else before us. But if you burn out, and I think this was my real stark thought at that time, was if I go under, everyone goes under. So I've got to crack on. I really do have to crack on. How can I make this experience better for me and for everyone else? And that little daily ritual, a bit of gratitude, even when you think, oh, what the heck have I got to be thankful for right now? There is always something. If you've woken up, you just be grateful for that. Start with that. Start for the fact that if you've got 2 feet, you've got 2 feet, they're on the ground, all is all right. And build from that.
Did you have a conscious decision to be honest with the children about what was going on? How did you sort of parent through that time?
Yeah, I was absolutely honest with them. 100% honest, because I remember my mum and dad getting divorced, and it was absolutely the right thing to do and the best thing to do, but and it felt like a relief, because when you hear arguments or you hear hushed phone calls or whatever, you know something's going on, but you start doubting yourself. And what I always wanted my kids to do is trust their gut. I don't want to be telling them they're wrong about something when they're clearly right about something. So I was really honest with them and had lots of open discussions with them about it. They could come to me for anything. We spent a lot of time together, and still am now to this day. You know, there's nothing they can't come to me with. I think every parent would like to think that. Obviously, there will be stuff that they won't come to me with. Both my boys have got girlfriends now, so it's that shifts. But I hope one thing that I have always been with them is honest and supportive and never dismissive of how they're feeling, because I think I read this somewhere as well. I'm obsessed with books. I don't read them, I listen to them. I'm a massive audiobook fan. But think someone said once that you could even have twins and they're brought up with the same mum in the same house, but they can have completely different childhoods. And I think all 3 of my kids dealt with things differently, and that's okay. So it was really on it, I had to be open to whatever they were coming to me with and want to be different to the other one, and they continue to be. That's what makes them them, isn't it?
In terms of community, sifting out people, how did you find that? You're obviously a very sociable person.
They sifted themselves out.
They were booted down themselves.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's a little bit like rats running from a sinking ship. Yeah, that was really hard, because I deeply care about people. That's all linked in with my green soul shade. And especially when we had a big team of people working for us. And we treated them like family. We really did. And in fact, my immediate team, I'm still in contact with all of them because they were great. And they're just brilliant. But yeah, it's always a tricky one. And it's always one that I thought in the back of my head, when you are up, everyone loves you. And then when you're down, they're a bit like, just don't look, don't go near or don't. So very quickly things shifted with certain people. And to me, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. At that time, I didn't need those people in my life anyway. It's made me I've always think I've been a good judge of character. I think I didn't listen to my gut enough in the past. And because don't you, when someone comes with something that's a bit too good to be true, it usually is too good to be true. But yeah, that shifted. I became a lot more family-centric. And I don't like letting go of people. I'm not good with goodbyes. I hate it. But I think one thing I've learned is that I can't blame myself for everything. And I always like, what have I done? It's not my bad. This is a reflection of them, and that's absolutely fine. So I've become quite okay with that. And I think the further away it gets from the real darkest days, the more you go, oh, I just needed a good clear out. Mm-hmm. It was toxic, or, there were things that weren't right. And that's life, isn't it? And I always say that to the kids, especially the girls, don't get hung up on friendships. Mm-hmm. Go to the people that feel like sunshine and leave the others. And it's fine. There's very rare people. Very rarely are you still friends with the people that you went to school with. And it's so weird because since I've been doing what I've done, a few of the people that I went to school with have come back in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, Jodie, was my best friend at primary school. And we set up my first ever membership club, which was called the Funky Fashion Club.
Amazing.
We made membership cards in our other friend Catherine's bedroom. And now I speak to Jodie every week, sort of via the community and stuff that I've done. And it's lovely. So people come and go, and you go with the flow, and then you'll have, I've got some really lovely women that were so important to me when I had my kids. None of us worked at the time, and we were so, we'd take the kids to each other's houses. They're not in my life so much now because I've gone back to work, or they've gone back to work, or life shifts. But then you will always have some bonds that won't go away. But I think it's knowing that you can just pick them up, and you have to work at them a little bit. But my best friend lives in Dubai. She moved to Dubai the year I had Charlie, so 17 years ago now. But we probably get together once or twice a year, and it's like we've never been apart.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm lucky to have those people in my life, definitely.
I think friendships do need to be talked about more because you do grieve them. And I think when you have friendships that you've known for 20 years and all of a sudden things such as having a baby, not being on that same trajectory, some friends that doesn't matter, other friends it really, really does matter because you are in a completely different phase and they'll be in a different phase too. And you can feel like, oh, so vexed by it or hurt by it because they meant so much to you. And you can grieve it and you can feel like it's your fault. But I think it's everyone I speak to, everyone has gone through this at certain points and they continue to. My mum is in her 60s. She still goes through these losses and that can change your colour too. And that's crossroads in itself, friendships.
Oh, completely. I remember when my mum and dad split up, my mum moved to this gated community and it was brand new. So no one had lived like in the community before and they all moved in. And it was crazy. So I can't even remember how old my mum must have been. She must have been like in her 60s, maybe 50s and 60s. And all these women, a lot of these women were divorced, sort of in the 50s and 60s. And oh my goodness, she has met her lifelong friends there. Oh. They go out for girly lunches. They have amazing. They really make time and make space for each other. And then they've all had their own issues in their own lives with parents and children and all the rest of it. But they're brilliant. And I think that kind of finding friendship later in life is incredible. I've got a new friend and the beauty of this is that I've gone out there just as me, not as anyone else, just as me. And you connect with some people and some people you don't. But I've met some amazing people over the past 2 years. You are one of them.
I know.
And I think it was last Friday I went out with one of the girls that I've met who just came to one of my events and we got on so well straight away. And we went out last Friday, we went out for the day and it was just brilliant. Because you've been through stuff. You've been through your own lives. There's no judgment. And you're right here, right now. And right now, this works. And I don't think you've got any pressure to go, but what if we're not friends in a year's time? It just dissipates and you can be here and be present. And I think certainly in my 40s, I've met women like that and they are just ace. Everyone now that I surround myself with is generally on a journey. And then I do have some friends who have been very steady in their career and almost they're planning for retirement now, but that's not my vibe. It's all right that it's their vibe and when I've worked in this with kind of my colour personality testing, I'll let them do that. That's theirs, that's brilliant, and that's just who they are. It's not that either of us are wrong, it's just different. And I think you take different things from different friendships and give different things to different friendships.
Yeah, no. It's a whole other podcast, Kate, isn't it?
I love it.
It's
I
so
love
great.
friendship. The friendship thing is so interesting because as a kid I didn't really have many friends. The kids always say to me, oh, did you have loads of friends? I was like, no. Like my mum, I think my mum even paid someone once to knock on for me when I was at high school. I didn't live on the estate. Like it wasn't, I lived kind of a little bit further away and they knocked on and they're like, do you want to come to the park? And I went, oh no, you're all right, thanks. I'm going to go for a walk with my dad. Must have been about 14.
Oh.
My kids are like, oh, mum, he's so weird. I was like, but I just was quite happy with my own company and I'm so different to that now. No, don't get me wrong. I do still love my own company. I do love to be in my pajamas at 8:00. Tonight I'm going out and quite frankly, I'm getting a little bit about it because I'm like, oh, I'm going to be in bed later than 10 o'clock. What is going to go off? But But no, I think you kind of come back to yourself and reconnect with yourself, and finding people who are on a similar vibe is just magic.
It's so funny that your kids have that reaction, because that's such a normal reaction to have. I'd be the absolute same, but now on reflection, I'd much rather be going for a walk with my dad than people you don't really care that much about. Do you know what I mean?
I know. And I try and get them to go for a walk with me, and they're like, oh no, we're going to go and hang around the village. I'm like, oh,
Fine,
gosh.
but you'll want to have a walk with me soon, guys.
Yeah.
Kate, you've come so far in such like a short period of time with what happened to your husband 3 or 4 years ago, obviously 17 years ago with Charlie and the postnatal depression, and colour feels like it's back with an absolute bang. I mean, you are actually kind of glowing with the light behind you is pink. It's kind of all encompassing you at the minute.
I'm here.
Where are we now? Are we at a crossroad? What does the road look like for you? What colour is it looking like for you?
It's full spectrum, babes. It's full spectrum. It's where I'm at now is I want to take it to the next level. So this year has been really about building the brand, and I've had some amazing collaborations with like Fern Cotton over at Happy Place and Chris Evans over at Carfest, and it's just been brilliant. I interviewed Gabby Roslin a few weeks ago for Exhale. It's just been brilliant, and the response has been great as well. So yeah, taking it to the next level. I'm writing a book currently, so that's big. Next year I'm in my author era.
Well, we don't even need to wait for next year, because you are going to be one of the guest speakers at TedX Warrington this year as well, aren't you?
I am. That was so when I vision board. Okay, so every year I vision board, and I'm big into kind of manifestation, which isn't just wishing, by the way. It's like taking actual action towards your goals and your dreams. And I do it in colour, obvs. And TED was red, obviously, for obvious reasons. That's the brand colour for it. But red feels, and that's my most tricky colour. It's the colour that's opposite to my natural energy. It feels a little bit too much. As Janet on my TV show said, it feels a bit much. It felt a bit much. But I'll always put something quite big in that red box. And TEDx was it. And I'm going to have done it. In this time, soon. I don't know when, but very soon. Last month of the year, last colour to tick off my vision board to accomplish. Big day, that one.
Oh, well, we'll be there cheering you on. Kate Harrison, thank you so much for joining us on the Crossroad. What an absolutely incredible guest. You are so inspiring. I feel very lucky to know you.
Oh, me too. Thank you.
Oh, I'm getting emotional.
Oh, thank you, babe. I loved that.
Emotional. You're so inspiring, seriously.
I loved that.